This is an interesting novel. He's a beta, quiet, steady, invisible. For 3 years, Ryan has worked as a human stabilizer for his alpha boss, Dylan, a man powerful enough to command a room, yet fragile enough to fall apart when his emotions spiral. But everything changes when Dylan's first love, Blake, returns. Ryan decides to disappear quietly, only to be caught at the airport by the very man he's trying to leave. That moment ignites a story of obsession, guilt, and impossible love. As Dylan fights his family, his illness, and his own heart, Ryan becomes more than just a stand-in. He becomes the only thing holding Dylan together. But when truth and lies blur, love starts to look a lot like control. This isn't a story about alphas and betas. It's a story about identity, choice, and what it costs to love someone who keeps breaking you again and again. Next, please enjoy this novel.
I'm a beta. This is my 3rd year working as a human stabilizer for my alpha boss, Dylan. But this year, his first love, an omega named Blake, came back. So I packed my things overnight and planned to disappear. Before I could get on the plane, Dylan caught me at the airport. His eyes were cold. "Where do you think you're going?" I forced a smile. "To pick up your long-lost sweetheart." "You believe that?" A message suddenly popped up on my phone. 3rd Street Complex. "Hurry." I sighed. Dylan was having another episode. I had just finished a blind date my mom set up for me and washed off the cologne. At 9 p.m., I grabbed another bottle of fragrance, covered myself in it from head to toe, and called a cab. Dylan was a top-tier alpha whose emotions sometimes spun out of control. Countless omegas wanted him, yet he never cared about any of them. For some reason, he fixated on me, a beta with no scent, no glands, nothing special, just because I looked a little like his white moonlight, Blake. On my 2nd day at work, he asked if I wanted to take on a side job. The pay was high, so I agreed. It was supposed to be simple, help him calm down when his instincts flared. I never thought that arrangement would last for 3 years. When I arrived at his apartment, one of his guards opened the door, trembling. That was unusual. Even alphas feared Dylan's presence when he lost control. The moment I stepped inside, Dylan pulled me into a tight embrace. His eyes were bloodshot, his voice hoarse. "Where have you been?" I froze, not knowing what to say. He looked exhausted and fragile, as if he was fighting against something inside himself. "Dylan," I said softly, "you need to take your medicine." He stared at me for a long time, then lowered his gaze. When I handed him a suppressant, he took it without resistance. After a while, he sat down on the floor, breathing hard. Tears gathered in his eyes. I sat on the couch, massaging my temples, wondering what triggered him this time. He hadn't broken down like this in years. Usually, when his emotions ran high, he'd just stay close to me until it passed. But tonight, something deeper was tearing him apart. When he finally calmed down, I helped him to bed. He didn't speak, just lay beside me quietly, his hand gripping the edge of the blanket. He cried through most of the night. I stayed awake, watching the shadows move across the ceiling. Then I checked my phone, and understood everything. Blake, his first love, had just gotten engaged. The engagement made the headlines, a glamorous ceremony with the heir of one of each country's richest families. No wonder Dylan lost control. From behind me, his low voice asked, "What are you looking at?" I locked my phone instantly. "Nothing. Go back to sleep." The next few days, I stayed at Dylan's place to make sure he was stable. He kept calling me dear, asking small, ridiculous questions. I answered half of them and ignored the rest. When his episode finally ended, I could tell the moment he woke up. He looked calmer, more like himself again. He didn't cling to me that morning, didn't call me by that strange nickname. Somehow, that made my chest feel a little empty. But I ignored it, packed my bag, and said politely, "I'll head home." Dylan's lips parted, as if he wanted to say something. In the end, he only said, "I'll have someone drive you." The next day, I went to work as usual. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't wear his favorite scent. No cologne, no reminder of Blake. When Dylan passed by my desk, he paused. "You're not wearing your fragrance today," he said. My fingers froze on the keyboard. I ran out. He didn't respond, just smiled faintly and walked away. That evening, I received a message from Jake, the man from my blind date. He was waiting for me downstairs. His luxury car parked right in front of the office. People stared as he waved at me. I had no choice but to approach. "Jake," I said quietly once we were inside, "I'm sorry, but I'm not planning to date or get married right now." He blinked in surprise. "Can't I at least be your friend?" After a pause, I nodded. "Just friends." At dinner, he was polite and thoughtful, the complete opposite of Dylan's wild temperament. But halfway through, my thoughts began to wander. I remembered Dylan sitting on the floor that night, tears in his eyes. His voice when he asked me not to leave. The way he always looked at me, as if I were the only thing keeping him together. I shook my head, trying to focus on Jake's words, but for some reason, my heart was beating too fast. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop thinking about Dylan. I suddenly looked up, my eyes locking on Jake. His gentle expression vanished, replaced by a sly, triumphant smirk. I tried to stand and run, but my legs went weak. I almost fell, only to be caught in his arms. I opened my mouth to call for help, but his hand covered it. "Sorry," he said loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear, "my partner's having an episode." A perfect excuse. Except I'm a beta. I struggled with all my strength, arms and legs flailing. The people around us turned away politely, pretending not to see. In our country, everyone's taught not to stare when someone's in heat. A great social rule, just not for me. My heart sank. I was about to be dragged toward the car. The drug coursing through my veins made my thoughts blurry. Pain on the tip of my tongue was the only thing keeping me conscious. Then suddenly, a shadow moved. I glanced sideways. Wasn't that Dylan? His face was dark as storm clouds, and the air itself seemed to twist under the weight of his pheromones. People on the street were struggling to breathe. Jake wasn't spared either. His grip on me faltered. I broke free, stumbling straight into Dylan's arms. He caught me tightly, his chest rising and falling with fury. He was angry. I could feel it. Jake had fallen to his knees, crushed by Dylan's overwhelming presence. When he tried to get up, Dylan kicked him hard, sent him flying several feet away. Bodyguards in black rushed over to handle the rest. Dylan didn't say a word. He just carried me to his car. The driver, perceptive as ever, raised the privacy divider. I finally let go, my strength fading. In the small space, our breathing mixed together. His steady and sharp, mine uneven and trembling. My body was burning up, the world blurring at the edges. "Dylan," I whispered hoarsely, "I'm so hot." Dylan pressed his hand over mine, his jaw tight. "Drive faster," he ordered. "Call the doctor. Meet us at my place." Everything after that was a fever dream. The heat, the chaos, his worried voice calling my name. By the time I woke up again, the worst of the drug had passed. But Dylan had fallen into another unstable phase. He was exhausted, eyes red, clinging to me like a child afraid of being left behind. I sighed, trying to calm him, but somehow ended up being pulled back into his arms again. "Dylan," I groaned, "stop it already. I'm not an omega." He didn't listen, just buried his face against my shoulder and muttered something I couldn't catch. Several days passed like that, a blur of sleepless nights, exhaustion, and quiet tears. When things finally settled, Dylan fell asleep on my chest, his lashes still damp. I reached for my phone and froze. Blake, Dylan's so-called first love, had run away from his engagement. According to the news from H country, he was already on a flight back home. Dylan stirred, his voice husky. "Babe, what are you looking at?" "I'm looking at your real babe," I thought silently. And that's when it hit me. I had to run. A stand-in should know when to leave. That night, while Dylan slept, I packed my bags and slipped away. I left only a resignation letter behind. Before dawn, I was already at the airport. Just as I finished check-in, the staff told me my flight had been cancelled. My pulse spiked. Then, right by my ear, a familiar voice. "Ryan, where do you think you're going?" Dylan's voice was low, each word squeezed between his teeth. A chill ran down my spine. "After sleeping with me, you think you can just walk away?" My knees almost gave out. What was this? Some twisted drama cliché? In those stories, the runaway always escapes. I wasn't that lucky. He caught me right there. I took a deep breath, forced a smile, and turned around. "I'm here to pick up your precious Blake." "You believe that?" Dylan let out a cold laugh. "You really think I'd buy that? Who brings luggage just to welcome someone home?" My shoulders slumped. I hugged my bag and slowly crouched down beside my suitcase. Dylan's expression softened slightly. He crouched in front of me, too. "Why did you try to leave?" Before I could answer, a voice called out, "Dylan." That voice carried surprise, hope, affection. The man rushed over, eyes glistening. "Dylan, it's really you. You came to pick me up, didn't you?" I turned my head. It was Blake. Quietly, I stepped back to give them space. Dylan's face changed. "What are you doing here?" "I came back," Blake said breathlessly. "Dylan, I realized I still love you. So I ended up watching their reunion." And something inside me twisted painfully. Without another word, I grabbed my suitcase and ran. Dylan reacted too late, tangled in Blake's grip. "Ryan," he shouted. "Blake, let go of me." I ran faster, the sound of my suitcase wheels drowning out everything else. until strong arms suddenly wrapped around my waist. What the hell are you running from? Dylan's voice was harsh, his breath ragged. I truly thought he might crush me. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then I finally managed. What are you doing? He snapped back. What am I doing? What about you? You sleep with me and vanish. What does that make me, huh? Was it meaningless to you? Would it have been anyone else? My mind went blank. I pressed a hand over his mouth, trying to stop the rush of words. Something about this felt wrong, too raw, too desperate. Still holding me.
Hold on. Here's my review of this novel. This story feels like walking through a storm that never ends. The writing shines most when it captures quiet desperation, Ryan's calm, almost numb voice, hiding oceans beneath every word. And Dylan, a man torn between obsession and dependence. He's not your typical alpha. He's fragile, self-destructive, painfully human. What's brilliant here is the emotional tension. Every interaction feels like a countdown. You know something will break, but you can't look away. Still, the novel isn't perfect. It circles the same wounds again and again. Love that feels like a cage. Healing that never quite happens. At times, you want Ryan to run, to stop loving someone who keeps hurting him. But maybe that's the point. The story isn't about happy endings. It's about people trapped by their own need to be needed. And when the fireworks finally spell Dylan and Blake are getting married, you realize this isn't romance. It's tragedy dressed as devotion. Alright, please continue listening.
He yanked my suitcase with his other hand, shoved me into his car, and slammed the door. No driver this time, he'd come himself. As soon as the doors closed, his shoulders dropped. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against my shoulder. His voice came out muffled. Ryan, do you really hate me that much? My heart softened. Not really, I murmured. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Blake approaching again. That familiar ache crept back. I nudged Dylan. You're Blake's coming. Dylan looked up, eyes still red. I've been meaning to ask, why does everyone call him my white moonlight? I don't even like him. Oh yeah. I raised a brow. Then who's that outside the window? Blake frowned and tapped on the glass. Dylan, are you seriously ignoring me right now? Dylan's face turned cold. He pressed a button, tinting the windows instantly. Then he looked straight at me. Ryan, I don't have a white moonlight. I only like you. The sudden confession left me speechless. Then why does everyone say otherwise? I asked. He gave a helpless smile. Where'd you even hear that, babe? At the company, people gossiped. Said he once rented the city's biggest LED screen just to wish Blake happy birthday. Said he cried in public when Blake left the country. Dylan snorted. He left, not died. If I loved him, why didn't I chase after him? Honestly, he had a point. Then, with a soft whine, he added, babe, my condition hasn't stabilized yet. I rubbed my temples, feeling the chaos closing in again. He leaned closer, eyes glinting. Babe, can I get a kiss? I was dragged, me and my suitcase, straight back to Dylan's place. The moment we entered, he lost it, sniffing me, pressing closer, like a wild beast. I clutched my sore back and mumbled, you're messy during your reactive phase, don't you think you need help? He paused, then sped up. You're the only one who can fix this. I believed that about as much as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. By the time his episode ended, I could barely walk out of bed. Under my staunch protest, Dylan finally let me go home. As I walked in, a faint aroma of white tea perfume greeted me. Oh right, I remembered. That gallon-sized bottle of white tea fragrance, his gift, unspoken yet loudly present. Anger bubbled up. I whipped out my phone, snapped photos, and confronted him. His reply, you don't need to wear it anymore. Fine. So the white moonlight is back and I'm disposable. No perfume needed for a placeholder. I should have known the whisper in the night, I like you, was just the wind. I was so angry I ignored his video call at night. Babe, why didn't you answer? I wanted to see you. A string of pleading emojis followed. I wanted to laugh, because somehow, the memory of his whining face softened the edge of my fury. I asked him, why don't I need perfume anymore? His answer, you already smell like me, of course you don't need it. Wait, whose scent is that exactly? I dropped my phone onto the floor with a thud. Holding my nose, I sat upright, a strange thought creeping up. Betas can't smell pheromones, but alphas and omegas sure can. So for 3 years, I've been wearing his scent in plain sight. In the company's gossip-filled eyes, me and Dylan have been together for ages. God, what's the difference between this and running around naked? Then Dylan realized something too. Babe, listen to me. Okay, I lost my mind. Then I saw you spraying that stuff often and assumed you liked it, babe. Don't ignore me, I made a mistake. I ground my teeth and slid him into the blacklist. The next morning I found Dylan squatting outside my door. Eyes swollen black, face drawn. Babe. Neighbor's gazes flicked. Get in here. Okay. Babe, I even brought you breakfast. He put the breakfast down, and I shoved the myriad bottles of white tea perfume into his arms. Alright, go on now. He hesitated. Babe, are you going to work later? I thought of last night's bank balance and simply said, no. Dylan exhaled. Okay, I might be a bit busy. Stay home and wait for me. Weird. I said nothing more and told him to go. Babe, don't forget to remove me from your blacklist. And just like that, Dylan really got busy. Only at night did he message me. He vanished by day. Due to the perfume incident, I was too embarrassed to go to his company. And truthfully, I wasn't keen on going out. Before I knew it, a half-month had passed without seeing him. Then one day an uninvited guest turned up. Blake walked in, disdain in his nose, a flick of his hand. He sat boldly on the sofa. I'm inviting you to my wedding, with Dylan. What do you mean? Literally. I and Dylan, we're getting married. He hasn't seen you lately because he's been with me. He slammed a collection of photos on the coffee table. I flipped through them, every single one of them looking intimate. My heart chilled. Blake tilted his chin. You really thought he loved you? You're just a knockoff because you look a little like me. Think a lot of yourself, don't you? And tell me, can you even cure his reactive phases? You can't, but I can. He dropped a stack of medical reports. I refused to look. He puffed out his chest like a cockerel. Enough, that's all I came to say. You're welcome to join our wedding. I scoffed. Fine. You want me at your wedding? Let Dylan extend the invite himself. His mocking eyes said everything. Who do you think you are? I didn't back down. Can't you do it? Fine. I'll have Dylan speak to you in person. After Blake left, I collapsed on the floor. The photos, those two people together, hurt. The bold print on the test results, proof of my uselessness, burned my gaze. After a moment I trembled, pulled out my phone, dialed Dylan. Busy tone. He didn't answer. I turned to search for any news about their engagement. Nothing. Dylan's family was a major enterprise in a city. If they'd truly engaged, it wouldn't be silent. Blake most likely was lying. Relief flickered in me. That night, Dylan called back. Babe, did you miss me? I was busy all day, just checked my phone now. I was blunt. Blake came to see me. Silence on the line. Then I heard Dylan curse, low and fierce. What did he say? That you two are getting married. He invited me to the wedding. Babe, don't listen to his crap. In this life I'll only marry you. My grip tightened on the phone. Dylan, you came on to me first. If you dare lie to me now, we're done, for real. Long silence. Dylan's voice ragged. Ryan, the only person I'll ever marry is you. Then he quickly changed topic. Babe, did you miss me? Actually, what I said earlier, was me confessing, right? Babe, I'm exhausted. I've got to meet with old men in S country tonight. They only wake at this hour. I hung up. My instincts screamed, something is wrong. His company must be in crisis. Still, I wanted to trust Dylan. I wanted to believe he'd handle everything. The next day, right outside the complex, I noticed rows of men in black. On trees, in bushes, around corners, they were everywhere. Probably sent by Dylan, to protect me, or to watch me. Curiosity mixed with fear, I deliberately went outside. I wandered near them, nothing happened. Then I stepped further, supermarket, cinema. Still nothing. Just maybe, they were here purely for protection. To stop someone weird, like Blake, from approaching me. Life moved on quietly. Dylan would appear now and then, clingy and affectionate, but often he'd vanish by morning. When I woke, the space beside me was cold. He didn't speak. I didn't ask. Still, no trace online of any marriage between Dylan and Blake. Until the trees outside turned yellow. Until a city had its first snow. I leaned on the windowsill and filmed a video for Dylan. He was still busy, slow to reply. But whenever he had time, even late, he answered. Outside a child in a red wool hat giggled, his mother's shadow long beneath the street lamp. I suddenly wanted to go to the city square for fireworks. I looked out and saw still those black suited men. So I felt safe. I slipped into the matching down jacket Dylan had bought me. I got a taxi this time, not walking. Watching neon lights blur past the window, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, peace. The traffic ahead thickened, the taxi crawled forward. I asked to get out and walk the rest. The driver nodded and handed me a rose. Keep this for your wife, he said with a smile. I accepted it and walked to the center square. Night was deeper now. Then fireworks exploded overhead, color after color, lighting the closed-in sky. The crowd surged toward the spectacle. I was drawn forward into the center. The big screen counted down. Nearby a couple whispered it would be a giant fireworks show. My heartbeat rose in time with the numbers. The final second vanished, and then the sky blossomed in light. I watched, mesmerized, the bursts of color washing over everything. Flickering lights formed a line of words in the sky. Dylan and Blake are getting married. I stood frozen in place. The thorns on the rose in my palm hadn't been trimmed properly. Several pricked into my skin, drawing tiny beads of blood. Fireworks kept blooming, one after another, shaping new messages. About the wedding date, about blessings, and so on. Men in black appeared out of nowhere, threw their arms around me, and dragged me back to Dylan's home. Once I got there, I immediately searched online for any news about their engagement. Nothing. Completely blank. I texted a friend, asking him to check for me. The answer came quickly. Rumors about their union had been circulating for 3 months already. Half a month ago, the two had even appeared in public together. Great. So, to keep me in the dark, they even built a private internet network just for me, huh? A dull ache spread through my chest. Forcing myself upright, I called Dylan. No answer. I let out a small laugh. Turning away, I walked toward my bedroom and reached into the back of the closet. From the shadows, I pulled out a small bottle of white tea-scented perfume, the one I'd secretly hidden. I twisted the cap open and poured the whole thing down the toilet. The fragrance filled the bathroom, thick and overwhelming, so strong it made me nauseous. So I pressed the flush button without hesitation. Goodbye, Dylan. I disguised myself and slipped past the men in black downstairs. Thankfully, I already knew their patrol routes. After what happened today, their formation was in chaos, perfect for me. I dove into the crowd, disappearing. Learning from last time, when the airport was sealed off, I chose a taxi instead. Halfway through, I threw my phone out the window. All I carried were my ID cards. This time, I finally left a city. Half a year later, I was working in a small town more than 3,000 kilometers away from a city, living as an ordinary office worker. Soon it was time for our company's monthly team gathering. Over dinner, someone brought up Dylan and Blake's engagement. After half a year of build-up, they're finally tying the knot. And Dylan still won't admit it. What a joke. They basically announced something everyone already knew. Hey, didn't you used to live in a city? You know anything about this? I froze mid-sip, coming back to myself only when I heard my name. Suppressing the bitterness in my chest, I downed my drink in one go. Not really sure, I said flatly. Speaking of which, another added, what do those alpha-omega pheromones even smell like? Forget it, someone laughed, we're all betas. Unless a miracle happens, we'll never know. Memories flooded back. That faint scent of white tea seemed to drift past my nose again. Dylan once said the perfume had been blended to match his own pheromone, almost indistinguishable. Whether that was true or not, I no longer cared. Feeling dizzy from the alcohol, I excused myself to the restroom. But just as I reached the beta-only restroom, someone grabbed my wrist and pulled me into a warm embrace. Baby, I missed you so much. My sluggish brain caught up. I struggled, trying to push him away. But Dylan held me tightly, burying his face into my neck, refusing to let go. My thoughts tumbled. Let go. I'm not interested in being the other man. I'm not married. Not yet, but you're getting there. Baby, please, let me explain. I spotted a coworker approaching and shouted loudly, help, call the police. Hearing my voice, my coworkers ran over. Dylan finally lifted his head, his face pale, eyes red-rimmed. They surrounded me protectively. Who are you? Leave now, or we'll call the cops. Wait, isn't this the Dylan from the news? He really looks like him. I quickly broke in, forcing a calm smile. He probably just got drunk and mistook me for someone else. Let's go, ignore him. This small town wasn't as well equipped as a city. Streetlights near my apartment often went out. After walking me upstairs, my coworkers left. And there he was again, Dylan, sitting by my door, awkwardly trying to inject himself with a suppressant. When he saw me, his tears fell instantly. Baby, my reactive phase started again. The memory of Blake swaggering into my apartment flashed through my mind, saying only an Omega's pheromones, his pheromones, could regulate Dylan's condition. So during those 6 months of wedding preparations, Dylan's condition was stable, huh? Now that they're apart, it's chaos again. My expression hardened. Get out. Dylan clutched at the hem of my pants, crying harder. I noticed the scars and bruises on his arm and frowned despite myself. Baby, please, just hear me out. A neighbor peeked curiously from their doorway. Rubbing my temples, I sighed. Fine, come in. The moment he stepped inside, Dylan burst into louder sobs. Stop crying. He bit his lip, forcing the tears back, eyes pitifully red. Looking at him only made my chest tighten. I remembered the first time I'd met him in a city, that decisive, commanding alpha. And now, during his reactive phase, he was like a helpless child. I sighed again. Dylan, do you remember what I told you? If you ever lied to me, we'd be done. You knew this from the start, so why cry now? I don't want to be done with you. He lunged forward, hugging me tightly. I didn't lie. Just give me 3 minutes, I'll explain everything, okay? Oh really? Then why was every piece of engagement news hidden from me? Should I blame the algorithm for not pushing it to my feed? I panicked. Panic or not, a lie is still a lie. We're over, Dylan yelped. I was wrong, baby. At least, please, don't kick me out tonight. I'm still in my reactive phase. A thunderclap boomed outside the window. Look, baby, it's raining. I didn't even bring my phone or wallet. If you kick me out, I'll have to sleep in the hallway. Then sleep there. I pushed him toward the door. And just so you know, if you make any weird noises and my neighbors complain, I will call the police. The rain lasted all night, the steady dripping keeping me awake. I tossed and turned. If Dylan really spent the night out there in that state, he'd definitely get sick. I grabbed my phone, rolled a die, and whispered to myself, even number, I'll take him a blanket. The number glowed bright too. Was the universe mocking me? Probably. Still unconvinced, I rolled again. 6. Grinding my teeth, I pulled a blanket from the closet, face blank as stone, and opened the door. Empty hallway. Not a single trace of him. Ryan, you're such a fool. I slammed the door shut. Dylan was dead to me, again. Soon came the day of their wedding. Co-workers pulled me over to watch the live broadcast, snacking as they commented. Even our boss seemed interested. Nobody bothered to stop us. The ceremony began. Every few minutes, someone sighed. Wow, that's real money. It almost made me laugh. After what felt like forever, the host finally introduced the main stars. As the camera zoomed in, Dylan appeared in a pure white suit. Elegant, calm, every bit the perfect gentleman. Moments later, Blake entered, a radiant smile on his face. The host continued the ceremony. Dylan, do you vow to honor your marriage vows, to love him whether rich or poor, in sickness and in health, in beauty or in hardship? Suddenly, Dylan snatched the microphone, cutting him off. I don't. Dylan, will only ever love Ryan. Gasps filled the room. The host gestured frantically to cut the live feed. Chaos erupted. The camera swung wildly across the guests. Several stern-faced middle-aged men glared in fury. One stood up, shouting, Dylan, what on earth are you doing? Blake's voice trembled. Dylan, what are you saying? Isn't this the wedding we both wanted? The broadcast crew panicked, turning the camera toward a white backdrop. And the next second, the curtain shook violently. A heavy motorcycle crashed straight through, heading directly toward Blake. Exhaust smoke filled the hall. The rider pulled off his helmet, swept back his hair, revealing a familiar face. Not long ago, Blake's runaway scandal had made headlines, leaving this man humiliated for days. Now he'd cornered Blake completely. Sweetheart, did you imagine this scene back when you ran away from our wedding? All the color drained from Blake's face. My coworker nudged me lightly. Hey, did he just call out a name that sounds exactly like yours? The last scene showed a helicopter hovering in the sky. Dylan ran, grabbed the ladder, and climbed up in a few swift moves, then disappeared into the clouds. Blake dropped to his knees, clutching the pant leg of a wealthy man, crying uncontrollably. Between sobs, he shouted, I said I was bound by the system. If I didn't do this, you'd die. Can you believe that? The man tilted his head and pinched Blake's face. You've read too many novels. And then, the live stream ended. Everyone in the office let out a collective sigh of relief. That was intense. The older manager took a slow sip of tea and sighed. Young people these days, too impulsive. Everyone nodded in agreement. Then my phone rang, an unknown number. A faint pulse throbbed at my temple, but I still picked up. Through the roar of wind, Dylan's voice came through the line. Baby, did you watch the live stream? I hung up immediately. My co-workers, who had clearly been eavesdropping, all turned away at once. Suddenly very busy. One flipped through papers, another whistled. Someone even pretended to pick lint off their shirt. I closed my eyes. Boss, I'm taking the rest of the day off. Dylan's bodyguards arrived before he did. Mr. Dylan said no matter what happens today, even if we die doing it, this recording has to reach you. I nodded, took the device, and played it on the living room projector. The screen lit up, Dylan's face filled it. He sat upright, his fingers fidgeting nervously with the hem of his shirt. Baby, I love you. From the moment you stepped into the company 3 years ago, I fell for you at first sight. But the company wasn't safe, so I used clumsy excuses to keep you close to me. My condition, my instability, it's real. Normally I can control it with medication, but once I met you, I stopped taking it. Please don't be mad, okay? If you are, that's fine, yell at me, hit me, anything you want. Just, don't ignore me. I couldn't help but laugh quietly. On screen, Dylan continued. What happened between us? It was an accident. But honestly, I'm grateful for it. It made me realize the fight with my family has gone on too long. I have to end it quickly so I can be with you without any burdens. Today is August 10th. Baby, I love you. August 10th. I remembered, that was the day he told me he'd be very busy soon. So this video had been recorded ever since then. It kept playing. Today is August through another unstable phase. Running to my building at midnight, crying outside, only to be taken away again by the wealthy man. Baby, this road has been steep and dangerous, but I'm almost at the end. Today is July 29th. Tomorrow's the finale. Wait for me, okay? Ryan, I love you. The video ended. Darkness filled the room. I touched my face. It was wet, though I hadn't realized I'd been crying. Just then, the doorbell rang. I walked over and opened the door. Dylan stood there, breathing hard. He tried to force a smile, but I still caught that flicker of nervousness hiding in his eyes. Baby, get in here. Yes, ma'am.